Today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Alpana Ahuja and she is an artist based out of Singapore. She's currently in her studio right now. And Alpana mainly works with acrylics, watercolors, oils, and has a very unique expression of art. She has been associated with Wildlife SOS for a long time and has raised funds for the care of our rescued animals. Today, she is joining us on this webinar to give us an insight into her creative process and to share a simple step-by-step tutorial on how you can get started with some art. To follow her process, you will be requiring a pencil, paper, watercolor, erasers, and some water. If you don't have these ready, you can go ahead and grab them while I ask Alpana a couple of questions. So to start off with, Alpana, can you tell us about how you began your journey with elephants?
Hi, Malvika and all the team here. Well, my journey with the elephants began, I think, in 2013, when I think December of 2012, I visited the Wildlife SOS Rescue Center, and I saw the first 5 rescued elephants and all the bears. And I think at that point, I wanted to help them with my art. I was already helping a couple of NGOs in Singapore with my art. So I decided that, I was very impressed with the work of Wildlife SOS, and I decided to go ahead and create some art for them. And I think the first project I did was this calendar. It was for 2014. It's an old calendar. But I did some animals in watercolor, and this was the first elephant actually, which I painted. It was my dad holding the pipe and bathing this elephant. And I just looked at the photos and I captured it in watercolor. And I think there was a deep connection after I painted this piece. And after that, I was painting a lot of elephants along the way. For the next few months, I was only painting elephants. So yeah, in different mediums, watercolors, acrylics, just sketches, just charcoals. Yeah, that's how it all began.
So elephants have clearly made a huge impact on your life.
Yes.
And I guess it must have been quite a unique experience when you visited the Wildlife SOS Center for the first time. So can you recall what it was like and what all you saw and any anecdotes that you may have from your time there?
There were very few elephants. It was mostly farmland, not many trees. I believe they've planted a lot of trees. I mean, my recent trip was more about 3 years ago. Because of COVID, I have not been able to go back and visit. And I mean, it was very enchanting actually to just stand around while the elephants were bathing, and I kind of overcame my fear. I had not been up close to elephants before that, and spending that time with them was amazing. Especially because soon after that, as I worked on the footprint series, the Pachin paintings. Well, I have one behind me here. Yeah, a couple of them are there behind me. These are the elephant footprint paintings. So when I started these, I really worked very closely with the elephants. And I mean, somebody who saw it, like my family, felt it was super dangerous because I was almost under the elephant. But they were so gentle, and they were so, they were kind of very careful. There was this one time when my arm got a bit yanked by the trunk, and she just dropped me because I was giving her a fruit, and the fruit kind of fell off. But I actually felt no fear because the elephant was super gentle at that point.
All right, and these pachins are quite an interesting concept. So can you tell me a little bit about how you came up with this concept and the process of taking the footprints of these elephants?
So honestly, I had no idea how I would work at a pachin and how I would work with the elephant. So I went armed with a very thick brush and all these paints, and I painted the background of the canvas, and then I sort of started working with the elephant. But when she lifted her foot, the foot is huge. It's really large. So I kind of just ditched the brush and everything else. I just went with my hands. I just dipped my hand into the paint and I just started dabbing it on the elephant's foot because I realized there is no other way to do it in a few seconds, because she's going to raise her foot for a few seconds only. And that's how I just got hands-on with the paint. And yeah, I mean, of course, there was somebody giving her treats. We have a team that works together. The elephant has to be comfortable. If we feel the elephant is not comfortable and she's not happy, we just let her walk away. That's fine. But a couple of elephants were very patient and very good. You know, Fulkali has been a very good artist, co-artist with me. She knows the whole drill right away. So I spent some time bonding with her initially and just chatting with her, feeding her. So her companion Maya hates this whole thing. She's very ticklish. We tried taking Maya's footprint. She hated it. She just ran away, and then she trumpeted to Fulkali, and Fulkali wanted to leave. So we just let them be for a while. And then we came back the next day, and Fulkali was cooperative, and she gave us some good footprints. So like that, I worked with different elephants, and some are very patient. Some will give us just 5 or 6 footprints before they walk away. And that's how it is. It's very organic. We don't know how it's going to work out. And it's fun. All I'll say is that it's fun every time.
All right, that is quite interesting. It's quite a unique experience to, be able to take the footprints of these elephants and to watch their behavior. And you can't predict how they'll react in these situations, all of that. So I think since we're talking about your art process, we can go ahead and we can follow your tutorial now and learn a little bit about art fundamentals and art basics. So over to you, Alpana.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I've kept some paper. It's watercolor paper. Basically, watercolor paper is a little thick, and it holds, you can use any ordinary paper for that matter. It's okay if you don't have watercolor paper with you today. It's just a way to get started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a simple outline method to teach you first, because I think capturing the lines is very important. When I first started the elephants, I would do a lot of charcoal sketches. So actually this notebook that I have in front of me, it's full of charcoal sketches of elephants, because that's what I would do. I would sometimes sit at the Wildlife SOS at the Elephant Rescue Center, and I would just watch the elephants and try to capture some in charcoal. I would take a lot of photographs. And initially when I started, it was just with these sketches. So what I'll do is I'll focus on line work today again, and except that I'll be using paint this time. I have a photograph of an elephant in front of me, just for a reference. And I'm going to do the front position of the elephant. So I have some black paint. I have my paint box here, and I have a black paint with me. And so we can get started. I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to paint the front view of an elephant. So we have to estimate the size of our papers. We have to make sure that we get in, but however, we just flow with the way the paint takes us. So just let it take over the creative process. That's the forehead of an elephant. So I'll work with the trunk because that's the front part of the elephant. We'll work backwards. So we'll start with the trunk. So I'm working with lighter lines right now, but in between, wherever I feel there is going to be depth, I'm going to make my lines just plain black. So this area is definitely in depth. So it's going to have, make sure your brushes have a good tip when you work. It's nice to have a good brush to work with. I think that's the basic tool that you need, a good brush. Don't worry if you have to repeat your lines, or you have to go over, or you feel you've made a mistake. Watercolors, even if you make a mistake, you can just put some water over it, and then you will be able to kind of fix it. People do say that it's a very unforgiving and a very difficult medium. Somehow I love the flow it gives me, so I just love watercolors. That's the inner depth of the ear of an elephant. We'll come to some distinct features now. The eyes are and then now, since this photograph shows the right side of the elephant a little darker, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get this side a little darker. This side will be faded away. We're going to introduce some more colors into this picture now. So I'm pulling out some shades of blue and green. Two feet in front. Okay, now I'm going to just add some color to this elephant. Almost white on the forehead, so just strips of very pale greens. Slight darker tones here. Just follow, if you have a photo of the elephant, it's very easy to just focus on the light and the shadows that you see. Watercolors have a lovely way of just flowing one into the other. So enjoy that process. It helps because my paper is vertical, so it helps that I have these nice colors flowing one into the other. Just feel free to use any colors that you have. Just focus on light and shadow. That's all I would say at this stage. There are two ways of doing watercolors. You'd work on a dry paper or you work on a wet paper. So depending on the effect that you want, you can call it wet on wet, which is what I'm doing right now. My paper is a little damp, just with plain water. You don't have to paint every bit of the paper either. You can decide which spaces are going to be left white. Try to keep a very thin brush when you're doing the line work. soft hand. Some of our elephants are very hairy, so I'm introducing little bits of fuzzy hair on the forehead. Now I'm bringing out the light and the shadow. So there's depth here. Now I'm going to just have some fun throwing some paint around. I'm going to use a thicker brush. I think for a quick sketch, this should be fine. I'm going to pick up another one where I'm going to take you through a more close-up of the elephant, like more like a face of the elephant. So if anybody has questions, you can ask me at this stage. It's your decision to decide when you want to stop working on a piece. But for watercolors, I would say that less is better. Don't overwork your watercolors. Try to keep the paper fresh. Try to capture light and shadow. I would just go with a little depth at the feet. Yeah, it's a little colorful, I know. Do you want me to start on my second piece or should we wait a while?
I think we can wait for a minute or so, but maybe you could
Okay,
tell
sure.
us about any tips you have for watercolor beginners or any common mistakes that you see watercolor beginners making that they should avoid, anything of that sort.
So watercolors, very transparent medium. So try to use minimum paint and more color. Minimum paint and more water. So the very fact that you're using watercolors means that you've got to reduce your paint. And I think that's the mistake most people make. And the second mistake is that they don't know when to stop. So an underdone painting is much better than something that you keep struggling with getting it over and over and over again. So it's not going to work out. So when you decide to end it, that's it. You can't really fix the painting, but you can practice the same subject over and over again till you are quite satisfied. I want to do a close-up of another elephant. I have another sheet of paper ready. So this might be, it should be easy because it's a side profile that I've picked. So it should be quite okay for people to follow as well. But tell me whenever you want me to start.
Let's go ahead. Let's start with the new.
Okay, sure. So this is going to be a larger piece. Okay. Now I have this photograph of an elephant who's playing in the water. So I'm going to start by trying to capture a simple line sketch of this elephant. So we'll start, we need a space for the, if you're comfortable, what you should do is perhaps use very pale lines to start so that you are able to space out your subject. So for example, there is a head, the head of the elephant, and then there is a neck, and then sort of the body. And here, and the trunk goes up. So I've got the back of the elephant there. So I hope that's clear. I'm going to go with slightly darker lines so that you can see them. Use a thin brush with a good tip. All these wrinkles under the eye, very important. If you look them up close, you'll see they have beautiful lashes as well, eyelashes. So this should be the position of the ear. Now there are wrinkles on the trunk, so I'm not going to give a straight line this time. I'm going to give like a wrinkled line to show how the trunk the lip, the folds of the neck, this is simple, and there's going to be a lot of water, so you'll have fun splashing around with the elephant in this piece. That's one leg on the other side. The second leg would be somewhere. So there's going to be a lot of water, so I don't want to draw too much. You can see there's the second leg somewhere here. The back somewhere there. Okay, so I hope you can all see it well. Okay, great. So we have the basic elephant sketched out. Now this is a large piece, so after I've done my line work, I'm going to switch to a slightly larger brush. We can even have a flat brush like this. Okay, we can use any of these slightly flat brushes. And in this picture, I'm going to leave the elephant almost like white, a lot of white. And I'm going to color the water and the background and the splashes of water. This is one of my favorite, what should I say? The way the elephants play in the water. It's one of my favorite paint. The way to paint an elephant is to show it happy in water. All right, so let's decide on colors now. You can be free in deciding what colors you want. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use a burnt sienna and I'm going to use a bit of purple. So burnt sienna is like a rusty color. I'm going to show you the shade. That's burnt sienna. You can use Indian red, you can use burnt sienna. You can use shades of ochre, yellow ochre. Make sure your water is clean when you're using these, the yellow, especially the yellow. So we'll use the warm colors behind the elephant and we'll use some cool blues and greens for the front of the elephant. There's a lot of thunder and lightning happening here in Singapore right now. I live right next to the rainforest, so I can hear it all rumbling. Every afternoon, this is what happens. So in this way of negative painting, I'm actually bringing out the elephant. I'm going to put minimal amounts of color on the elephant. A few shadows. We have splashes here, which the elephant is playing with the water. So I'm going to work on that a little later. And we have a lot of water here. So let's go with the water. I'm going to use a Viridian green. A Viridian green is this shade. Let me show you. It's a bluey green color. It's this color. So I'm using a Viridian green and I'm mixing a little wee amount of black into it. I'm mixing black because I want some depth here in front of the painting. So it's more greeny black, deep green. It's going to be more light here. So more water, plain water for now. The water is a little muddy, so that's okay. That's the effect I want. And I'm going to introduce the green into this water. Water doesn't always have to be blue. You can play about with greens, purples, different colors. Okay, and now here I'm going to work on some splashes. Leaving a lot of white is important because we are showing water. So I'm actually going to just spray some paint. I'm going to use this brush and I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to just spray paint here. So all this is wet on wet that I'm working on because the base is wet and I've splashed water over the wet base. Okay, now I'm going to use plain water splashes, simple plain water splashes to give me a little more water here. Okay, now I'm going to introduce some nice blues into the picture. Let it flow one into the other. Let the colors flow in. Semi-abstract, so I'm going to have some strokes just come here all the way. Taking a slightly thicker brush. As you can see, I'm not restricting myself to staying within the elephant because I want a semi-abstract effect here. Okay, now here is water. So let's get this sorted here. Okay, I'm going to cover this trunk and I'm going to go for it. Some plain water splashes. It's actually fun because the elephant is in water and this is watercolor. So it's actually a great way to show the elephant while you're having fun with the water. Okay, a few more shadows. A little bit of sunlight on the forehead. So just some yellow paint for some sunlight here. Okay, I'm going to introduce a little more water flowing on the elephant's back. Just some final touches. Tiny bits of hair. Some depth. That's the final. The final depth I'm going to add now because this place is in shadow with the elephant looming above the water. So this is all going to be in shadow. Hint of a tail, perhaps. Yeah, I think that's done. I think if I work more than this, I'm going to ruin the piece. Let me take a look. So what happens is when I work with watercolors, this is typically how I would work on a piece. And then if I want to translate the same piece into an acrylic on canvas, I'm going to bring you a piece to show you. So this is how I would translate the same sketch into an acrylic piece. So this is worked with a palette knife, and you can see it's the same elephant, but it's more abstract. So the basic of the creation work starts with the lines. It starts with these lines, and you capture the light and shadow. Okay, let's see. Okay.
That was a wonderful tutorial. And I think a lot of times when beginners do watercolors, we often forget about letting go. We try to stay
Yes.
within the lines. We try to keep fixing
Correct.
the drawing if we
Correct.
make a mess
Correct.
of it. So it's important to know when to stop and to let go a little
Yeah.
bit. So this was quite an interesting tutorial.
I just felt that my elephant needed a little more depth here. So I've just added it on. Yeah, just a little bit more. Yeah, so sometimes what happens is your line, you realize, oh, that should not have been there. But that's what watercolors is about. You just flow along. Yeah, I think I should just let go of this now.
I think we're almost running out of time for the webinar. So I'll ask you an important question that I've been meaning to ask.
Sure,
So
sure, sure.
art is a powerful tool that helps to sway people's minds to a cause and raise awareness about critical issues. So I want to ask you, how can artists support wildlife conservation and also support Wildlife SOS and what they can do with this power that they have of creating beautiful things?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of questions rolled into one. I don't know about other people, but for me, I really wanted to help animals. And when I first saw the work of Wildlife SOS, I was very impressed. And I wanted to use my art. I mean, you can't rescue an animal and bring it home. So what happens is you try the next best thing that you can do. And you realize that there are many ways of helping animals. You don't have to bring the animal home. Sorry, I this caught my eye and I felt that this needs a little more line work here. Yeah, so that started my journey because I really wanted to help the animals at Wildlife SOS and I wanted to support the work of Wildlife SOS. There was one painting I did right in the beginning in which I showed one of your rescued elephants, Rajesh, in the pool. And he always has fun in the water. And I showed the chains with the spikes, and I showed the bull hooks and everything in the water, flowing away from him. So initially, I painted pieces which showed the stark previous life of the elephants, the pain and the agony they went through. And I think that piece, it was sold. And somehow after that, I've just been painting happy pieces. I've not really shown the tools of torture in my paintings. It's more like happy. But then I think the Pachin paintings, the elephant footprint paintings also do tell a story at times. And they speak about the background because I do add touches of the fort, elephants carrying tourists. So the background of the fort shares the story of the elephants. There's a collection called the March to Freedom. So which is what the Wildlife SOS elephants are now, they're free. And I think, yes, definitely art does reach out to people and touches their heart because when they come for an exhibition, they listen to the whole story and they watch the whole story, in the art. And generally animals don't have a voice. So for me, I think this is just the story of my heart, to sort of raise awareness about the elephants, about other animals, and hopefully raise money for them as well.
That's a really heartfelt sentiment. I think with that, we can end this webinar. And thank you once again for, giving us this tutorial, this wonderful watercolor tutorial. And in case anybody has any queries, they can put it up on wildside@wildlifesos.org. It's in the chat box and we will answer your queries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, Alpana.
Bye. Bye.